Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating idea from our source material, the concept of faith, not as some kind of static label, but as an active, dynamic journey, a journey along a single straight path.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at how the text even defines religion. Then, we'll explore its call for unity before walking through the path itself, looking at the trials you'd face, and finally, the incredible stations you can reach.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. Before we can talk about the journey, we have to understand the vehicle. So, according to our source material, what is religion, really?
Well, the text gives us these three really powerful and interconnected ways to think about it. First, it's a mix of what you believe and what you do, faith and right action. Second, it is that journey we mentioned, the straight path. And third, it's like a rope from God, something that connects all of us to the divine. Keep these three ideas in mind because they're going to pop up again and again.
Okay, so this leads us to a really crucial idea in the text, this concept of religion as a unifying force, something that's meant for one single, undivided community.
And this verse is really central to the whole idea. See, there's that rope of God metaphor again. The text presents this as a direct command, not just a friendly suggestion. Hold on to this rope together and don't get divided.
And this is where things get really interesting, because the text sets up this sharp contrast. On the one hand, you have the ideal, one single identity, Muslims. But on the other hand, it points out what it sees as a problem, the division of religion into different sects, like Sunni and Shia, which it frames as a complete departure from that original unity.
So the key takeaway here, according to the source, is that there's this one, original, divinely approved title for believers. Any other labels that came later are described as man-made additions that actually break the unity God commanded.
And all of this brings us to the core metaphor of our entire explainer. Religion isn't just a box you check or a label you wear. It's a path you have to actively walk, a journey that has a clear starting point and a final destination.
And it's not just a random walk in the woods. The text lays out a clear blueprint for this journey. It involves moving up through 5 distinct stations, or levels of faith. You start as a Muslim, and from there you can progress all the way to the highest rank of a righteous servant.
But how do you actually travel this path? Well, the source talks about the rights of the road. Think of it as the rule book for the journey. It's a set of 77 principles, a whole code of conduct that covers everything from something as simple as moving a harmful object off the street all the way up to fulfilling your most profound duties to God, to your family, and your entire community. But you know, no real journey is a walk in the park, right? It's going to have its challenges. The path isn't always smooth, and the source is very clear about the specific obstacles that travelers are going to face.
The text identifies a very clear antagonist for anyone on this journey. Satan isn't just a vague concept of evil. He's described here as an active agent who literally lies in wait on this specific path, trying to ambush people and pull them off course.
But here's the thing, you're not alone out there. The source uses this really fascinating analogy of angels, acting as a kind of divine police force on the path. Their job is to direct you, to warn you of dangers ahead, and basically to help regulate all the spiritual traffic, to keep you from falling into the traps set by the antagonist.
So that naturally leads to a big question, right? With all these challenges, you're probably going to make a mistake at some point. You might stumble. Is there any way to get back on the path after you've taken a wrong turn?
And the answer, according to the text, is a definite yes. Now, a major mistake can knock you back a level, say from a believer back down to the station of Muslim. But the key is that the gate of repentance is always, always open. This means you can acknowledge what you did wrong, sincerely turn back, and then get right back on the path and continue your journey forward.
Okay, so now let's get to the really exciting part, the destination. Let's take a closer look at these higher stations on the path. This is the goal, the whole point of the journey we've been talking about. The first major milestone you hit after starting out is the station of Iman. This is where you graduate from simply identifying as a Muslim to truly being a believer. It's about having this deep, unshakable faith in the unseen and consistently living by God's commands.
From there, you can climb to the next level, which is taqwa, or God consciousness. This is a state where you are so profoundly aware of God that you are meticulous about giving everyone and everything its due right, not just because it's the rule, but out of a deep sense of divine accountability.
And even higher than that is the station of ihsan, the rank of excellence. This is amazing. It's not just about following the rules anymore. It's about making every single action beautiful. It's about worshiping God as if you can literally see Him and proactively racing to do good in the most perfect way you possibly can.
And that brings us to the absolute pinnacle of the journey described in the text, becoming a righteous servant. This is a state of such pure and complete submission that your will becomes perfectly aligned with God's will. You simply do what you are commanded, in a state of harmony that the text compares to the nature of angels.
And to wrap up this whole picture of the path, the source material leaves us with this powerful promise. It says that for anyone who embarks on this journey of doing good while being a believer, the reward is twofold: a truly good life here and now, and their full reward in the hereafter.
So this leaves us with a final thought to mull over. How does it change things when you stop seeing faith as just a fixed identity, a box you've already checked, and instead see it as an active, continuous journey, one with clear stages, clear challenges, and a clear path for progress? How does that shift in perspective change how you approach your own spiritual growth?